Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Art at Home. I want to start out. First of all, I know the world is in a terrible place today. It is March 2nd, 2022. This is the place where I'm hoping we can forget for a few hours the terrible state that the world is in. Art is a great way for us to forget about all the problems in the larger universe and focus on ourselves for a change of pace, for a little bit. And our class, our Wednesday class, Art at Home, sponsored by the Hoboken Public Library, is the perfect way to do that. So many thanks to the Hoboken Library for sponsoring this class. My name is Liz, and I welcome you to our first Art at Home class for the month of March. March is Women's History Month, and for this first week in March, we will be focusing on our first female artist of interest. Her name is Abigail Deville. Abigail Deville is pretty new to me. So maybe there's someone in the audience who knows more about her than I do, and I would love any input that we can get on her. I'm going to talk about her life very briefly because I don't have much on her. Then I'm going to show you some images of her work, and then I'm going to make suggestions to you of many different ways you can go to express yourselves today after looking at and hopefully being inspired by works that she creates. Abigail Deville is probably around 41. She was born in New York City, New York, so very close to us. She got her education at Pratt Institute and the Skowhegan School of Painting and Sculpture. She also went to the Fashion Institute of Technology right here in New York City and got her MFA from Yale University. She's most famous for her sculptures and installations. So she creates sculpture by incorporating found materials that she picks up just walking around the neighborhood, and from other exhibition venues where she shows her work, or I'm assuming where her colleagues and friends also show their work. Her installations often focus on history, on racist violence. She is African American, and also gentrification, which I find particularly interesting to those of us who live in and around Hoboken, because this is an issue. I've lived here for over 40 years, and this is an issue that we've struggled with right here in our own neighborhoods. And she also focuses in her work on lost regional history, which is another thing that has been a focus of interest in Hoboken itself. There's a lot of buried history in, around, and under the architecture that we have right here in our own city. She often uses performance in her artwork, which takes place in the exhibition space, but also spills out into the streets. And she calls her performances processions. She invites, or processionals, she invites bystanders to come in and join her and other artists partaking in the processionals to join her. She's done it in several US cities, including Washington, DC, Baltimore, and New York. She likes to use her own family as inspiration. I love this about her practice and her work, particularly her own grandmother, who she describes as having a very vibrant personality. And she was a big influence on her life when she was growing up in the neighborhoods of the Bronx where she lives. She loves that her work is unique and that many people see trash as useless, but that she herself sees it as an opportunity to create. And I'm hoping that Heather is with us, our dear friend and colleague and fellow artist. Heather is with us today because Heather is someone who walks around and collects garbage to create her own artwork. So I think you're going to have a close affinity with Abigail Deville.
Why isn't this working? Okay.
And apologies, I'm looking, we didn't have a whole lot of time at the beginning of class today, but I see that there are possibly a few new students today, and I welcome you all. Thank you so much for coming. Usually I start with introductions when there are new folks, but we got a late start, so I wanted to jump right in. Welcome. Just a little aside, if you are new, this class is open to artists of all skills and stages of development. So if you feel lost at any point in this class, feel free to ask questions, throw out ideas or opinions. This class is for everyone. As I mentioned before, Deville was born in New York and lives and works in the Bronx. In New York, she loves directing attention to historical realities in her work, particularly ones that are unknown or forgotten. She likes to illuminate truths, which people give little care or thought to, particularly from the history of a group of people seen through the light of violence. She attended the High School of Art and Design, graduated in 1999, also the Cooper Union Saturday program. She now teaches at the Maryland I'm assuming it's the Maryland Institute. Oh yes, sorry, the Maryland Institute College of Art. Got her BFA from FIT and an MFA from Yale. She has held residencies at the Studio Museum of Harlem and the International Studio and Curatorial Program in Brooklyn. She also took part in the television series Art Star in 2006, which was the first art-based reality show. Her work has been shown all over the United States, and she's starting to become known on the international stage. She's received awards from the Joan Mitchell Foundation, the New York Community Trust, Creative Capital, and she also received an Obie Award for design for her work as a scenic and costume designer. It's pretty awesome. She was awarded the Rome Prize of the American Academy of Rome for 2017 to 2018. So she is definitely up and coming.
Liz,
Yes.
we can ask for people to mute their mics if they're not speaking.
Yes.
Please, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yes, just a reminder, everyone, if you are not speaking, please do mute your mics. I'm going to take a second to see if I can do that myself. Yes. Good. Yes, if you could mute your mic unless you have something to say. And at that point, of course, please unmute. You can always start a conversation in the chat. You can always use the raise hand icon. Sometimes when I'm busy speaking or teaching, I don't notice what you put in the chat or the hands up sign immediately, but feel free to say whatever it is you need to say when you need to say it. All right, so now I'm going to share the screen. And we're going to look at some of her work. Also, if you have more information about Abigail Deville that you want to share with us, please do. Let's see if this works from my folder. If the images are too small, don't worry, I will pull them onto my desktop and I'll share them from there. But this is easier for me. So let's see if, can you see this? You can all call out, everyone. Let me know.
They're small thumbnails.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this way. I always live in hope that that's going to work, but I probably should start giving that up. I'm going to have to do it the more tedious way of dragging the images out of my desktop. So I'm going to take a second here, folks, to pick some really interesting ones. Good. Let's try this now. Okay, nope. One more second. Okay, this should work. Yes. Okay, here we go. Better?
Yes, much better. Looks good.
And I just got a text from Lily. Could someone please send her the link? Heather, perhaps, or Esty? Thanks. All right, so here we go. This is one of Abigail Deville's sculptures. And you can see that she's definitely taking detritus and joined it together to make this incredibly interesting piece. I'm not sure what historic moment she's referencing here. I mean, to me, it's got definite masculine overtones. Any thoughts on this one, folks? What are your feelings or impressions?
I find it disturbing.
Why?
There's this, just get a feeling that something, I don't know how to put it. The image is disturbing. It's like a warlike, angry feeling, but the sculpture, the person on the bike, if that's a bike, and the projection and all, it's like something, if inside it just has a feeling that there's something very wrong, very off. Just my sense of it scares me. For what it's worth.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you for sharing. For me, it has a menacing feel. Would that be
There you go.
a good
Thank you.
adjective?
Yes.
Yes, especially because of this, the stance, the way it is. It looks like a weapon. It is also phallic.
You can't deny the phallic
Yeah.
imagery. And there's something about the way these projectiles are sticking out too that's where the word menacing came from for me. Is there anyone who feels the opposite way about this piece?
I feel it's like the launch into space, like the male, like because the helmets are like space helmets, and the way they launch things and that almost like the ego. So more they go into space, it's like about the ego, male ego, or a person, the fight to be the first one to walk on the moon. I just from the helmets and the way, almost like a rocket. It's very phallic, but again, it's more than that. It represents maybe going to. I see it that way because of the helmets, like going to space. That whole ego of we put a man on the moon. We're going farther and farther than anyone else.
Great interpretation. And who's speaking, please?
This is
Because
Colleen, Kath. I'm a new student. I finally got here after a couple of years of seeing it, seeing your classes advertised.
welcome, Colleen. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. That was a really great interpretation of this piece. All right. Anyone else before we move on to another picture? Okay. So let's see if I can find something in a different vein. Yeah, this one. All right. This one is unfortunately not a great photograph. It's really pixelated, but it's collage. There's a lot of three-dimensional form in it, though. So I guess it's really more of an assemblage. And it definitely has a sense of history to it. The image here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, I hope so, but there's a framed image tilted downwards here that's a picture of buffalo soldiers. And they were the African-American soldiers who fought in the Indian Wars and also the Civil War in defense of the United States. And they are often forgotten in American history. There are pieces of broken glass. There are bits of dried flour. There are pieces of fabric, broken pieces of wood. I'm guessing from significant construction sites around her neighborhood, because remember, gentrification is something that she's dealing with in her work. It's interesting to me that she has it all in this golden picture frame. So she's referencing art and the history of art and still kind of escaping the parameters of art as we know it. I like the jumbled effect of this piece, the kind of messed up feeling to it, for lack of a better word, this sounds so juvenile, but higgledy-piggledy, thrown about, maybe hectic is a better word to use. What do you folks think?
I just find the colors and the shapes work beautifully together. I'm not sure from looking at it from here I mean, I understand you described it, so I have a sense of what it's about, but it's almost like I don't need to know what it's about because it works so well in terms of motion and color. Again, I don't know, I don't know if you talked about the artist today. I just was able to get on your site now, but I feel like the artist is very disturbed, or there's something very traumatic that happened to her, and that it comes through her work. I don't know if that is anything real or not, but
Well, I don't, who was speaking, please? Was this
that's
Rob?
Robin.
Robin
Robin.
again. Okay, so she is African American Robin. So a lot of her work is about the history of violence
Okay,
towards forgotten people.
I
So
see. Okay,
I don't know if that helps in your
it
thoughts
does.
about her work. Okay.
It does, but I really love this. I mean, in terms of it's working for me as a piece of art, the colors, the shapes, the movement, everything. It's amazing with all the various things she has going on in there.
Right.
So Liz, it's Jane.
Good.
I
Thank you.
went,
Go ahead, Jane.
so I wanted to see more detail, and I now am looking at an image on my screen very clear, so I can see
Okay, good.
precisely what's going on. And I see, so first of all, the really interesting is that the picture frame and the actual artwork is tilted,
Mhm.
and there is a gap
Yeah.
at the top that shows that it is intentionally tilted and not in the frame. It's also reaching over the frame at the lower right corner.
Yes.
And that was
projecting
something
out.
sorry.
It's projecting out of the whole picture frame. Yes.
That's right. The other thing that's interesting, just on a more like a micro level, is that tilted frame inside is actually a needlepoint,
Aha.
and it's a
This
needlepoint.
The whole image is needlepoint?
There are two frames internal to the piece.
Okay.
One on the left and one on the right. The one on the right is a needlepoint.
This one of the Buffalo Soldiers.
I don't know what that means when you say Buffalo Soldiers. What I see is a house and a garden in needlepoint.
Are you sure we're looking at the same image?
Let me go back to the Zoom just to be sure. Yeah. No, when you say the Buffalo Soldiers, where are you pointing to it now with your cursor?
Yes, here. There's
Yeah.
a kind of ornate frame.
Yeah, that's a needlepoint, and it's of a house. I don't know what you mean by Buffalo Soldiers.
Oh, well, when I first found this image and referenced it, it talked about Buffalo Soldiers. So I'm not sure.
I don't even know what they are, what Buffalo Soldiers are. But anyway,
I just mentioned the Buffalo Soldiers were African American soldiers who fought during the Indian Wars and the Civil War, and they're often forgotten in American history.
it must be it must be referring to a different part of this piece, because this is clearly a little cottage with a garden. And
thank you for that information.
anyway, so the whole thing is sort of tilted. Like if I could describe the piece in just a couple of words, I would say it looks like a stream of information, imagery, and texture moving from top left to bottom right, as if it's being sort of collected and maybe intensified in some way. It creates a little tension because it's got a direction. That's about all I've got.
Well, I like that. It's definitely completely tumbling. I don't know if
Yeah,
flowing. You reference
right.
a river-like quality to it, but for me, it's more tumbling from the top left-hand corner down to the right.
Right. Thank you.
For
Yeah.
me, it feels more like a hurricane almost.
Yeah, and there's I think the piece up at in the upper left, not in the corner, but there's a let me look at it again. I think it's a shell. Yeah, there are 3 pieces of shell that are included and some threads that look like they're holding the work to the frame and holding the shell to the work.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an assemblage there.
Yeah.
Thank you for your additional research. Really helpful.
I will put this link into the chat so other people can look at it on their own.
Awesome. And
All right.
thank you for the additional research and correction about this image here, because that's important to know. And Stephanie, you have your hand up, so go ahead.
Do you know the measurements of this piece?
I do not. Maybe Jane has that information.
Let me see if it says anything. I mean, if just by looking at it, if you think about the scale of the shell in the upper left, that kind of is an anchor.
It feels small.
So it's not a huge piece. I would say it could be like 3 feet, maybe 3 or 2 by 3 or 2 by 2 or something.
It feels small, this one.
Yeah.
But I like this one because I want you to think about how things can be joined together. How you can take a 2-dimensional piece and make it into an assemblage, a collection of 3-dimensional things on a flat 2-dimensional surface. Notice I can see here that this part is wired to the frame. And Jane was telling us she used yarn. So she must have a whole variety of ways of joining things together. There is chunks of broken glass that I'm assuming she glued or epoxied onto this image. So it's that kind of joining together of objects that I want you to start thinking about for today's project. All right, thanks to everyone who shared on this image. Let's look at a few more, and then I want to give us our project for today. I do so love when you folks look for more information, so thank you.
Okay, well, I got something else, Liz. This is almost unbelievable, but I'm going to put it into the chat. It says that the work is that piece, I don't know if I can get it in. It says something about Emmett Till in that last piece we looked at.
Okay. Again, there is reference to racial violence in her work. She is often motivated by injustice, forgotten history. So I love this piece. This is one of the creations that she's made that really drew me to her work and helped me choose her as the artist of focus today. Again, it is a digital image, so it's incredibly pixelated, but it is made of garbage, things that she has collected from around her neighborhood. And it appears, although I'm guessing that Jane is busy at work starting to do research on this already for us, it appears as if it is built from a frame, whether or not she created this frame herself, but you can see there's a grid that's undergirding this whole piece. See the boxes underneath, and she's attached other things on top of that grid. I'm betting some of this stuff is woven through, wired on, probably glued, stitched, attached in multiple ways to the grid underneath. Love the colors. I forget who was talking about motion first. I think it was Robin, but I love the motion in this piece. It's very powerful and strong in this one. For me, the focal point, remember the part of focus, of attention that the artist wants us to look at first. For me, it's dead center of this piece, where this kind of starbursty thing is. I feel like that's where she wants us to look first. And then my eye is drawn upwards to whatever this white stuff is, all the way over to this left downward hook. And then for some reason, my eye is dragged down to this image down here that looks a bit like a mask to me, with eyes here, teeth, big white teeth. There are other things that look skull-like or portrait-like. This looks like it could be a profile. Why?
Piece. It's I can't copy it. I was going to try to put the link in. I can't even do that, but it's got messages. It's got it's got a lot of detail, and it looks like it has like two planes, a background plane and then a foreground with a lot of these images that are painted or constructed.
It's marvelous. Okay. I'm going to just show one or two more images of her work so you can get a sense of the scale of what she creates. And then we're going to talk about what you're going to create today. She makes them enormous. And speaking of houses, I'm looking for a piece she constructed. Here's one we'll look at. That's not the house, though. Now, I can't seem to find the house image at the moment, but I have a whole lot of other things to show you that will show the scale of her work. This one's pretty incredible. So again, it's because I have to enlarge it, it's a little bit blurry. But this is the type of thing she does, taking garbage to create structures that have meaning for her, structures that are going to convey a message to her viewers.
It almost has the quality of a stage set, so you could see from here
Yes.
how she could go in that other direction.
Yes, and it's interesting that you mentioned that because she has won awards for her stage design as well. So she thinks big with her work, and these she also uses these in performance as well. Okay. Here's another kind of, this is definitely a teepee style structure. Definite reference to Native American culture in this one. I don't know what these images are that she has wrapped the teepee form in. I can only guess, but I wanted you to see the size and scale of the kinds of things she builds. All right. I think it's time for me to start telling you what you can start working on today. There's a whole bunch of directions that you can go in after looking at Abigail's work. I would suggest to you that you gather up stuff from around your home, and we've done this in the past with other assemblage artists, bits of fabric, buttons and beads, twine, anything that you collect, bits of shells, old catalogs, old magazines. Some people collect paper clips, old pill bottles, anything that you normally might discard, twisty wire that you could use for joining things together, small gift boxes, tiny jars, those kinds of things that you tend to generally overlook. And I want you to start thinking about them as materials that you can use as art objects. And as we have done in the past, you can start thinking about constructing your own kind of assemblage. The lighting is not great for me to show this off today, but I'll show you after I've talked about directions you can go in. I'll show this in a better way. But this is one that I've been working on, that you've been watching me work on for a while. It's got bits of buttons, even plastic bag material, one of my old dolls that I make, lots of wire in this one, and string. Buttons, lots of buttons. So little things like that. And it's all put together in an old box that I had from a delivery. So doing assemblage or collage is one direction that you could go in. But then it occurred to me today, because she's so inspired by the personality of her grandmother. If you are lucky enough to have photographs of any of your ancestors, you could go a more traditional route. I'm showing you actual photographs of my grandparents. This is my paternal grandparent and my maternal grandparent. You could go a more traditional route today and do straight portraiture. You could do pencil sketches of ancestors who have meaning to you. And in a moment, for those of you who are new to the class or maybe a little bit rusty with your drawing skills, I'm going to go over some tips for doing portraiture. Those of you who are veteran students, you can choose to listen to my review of those techniques as well. And you could start with traditional portraiture. So this is a third option. You could start with traditional portraiture and you could use those portraits in collage or assemblage. Or here's a fourth option. If you have old portraits that you're not that happy with, you could cut them up and use them as material, as media in your assemblage or collage work. So this is a lot to think about. I want you to give yourself from anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes to gather up all your materials and start thinking about what you want to do. Remember, if you're doing assemblage, you're going to need some pretty strong adhesive, or you're going to need to think about a variety of ways that you can join your materials together. You might need needle and thread, you might need wire, but you will need glue like Elmer's glue, liquid Elmer's glue. This stuff is best for joining three-dimensional objects together. If you are simply doing collage, then any kind of cheap glue stick will do. I prefer that you not use tape. And if you're doing portraiture, get the drawing equipment of your choice. If you are new to doing portraits, though, I would recommend that you just use pencil. All right, time for questions. Oh, I'm seeing that Lily is still having problems. Huh. Okay, I'm going to try and send her the link now. This is a shame.
I tried, but she didn't get it.
Okay.
Maybe I have the wrong email address.
All right, so excuse me, everyone. I'm going to take a minute to do that. Okay, and apologies. I don't know why you can hear my phone because because I forgot to turn on my do not disturb. So sorry about that, folks. All right, so now I'm going to take a second to go over the proportions of the human face. Let me just open up that diagram. Oh, no, that was wrong. And this is for those of you who need a refresher or for those of you who are new to drawing the human face. you can take a second to look at this image that I now have on the screen. For starters, the human face is an oval. So you will need to draw an oval. Oval obviously is wider at the top, narrower at the bottom, and artists like then to draw guidelines. The human face is symmetrical. So this vertical line down the middle through the nose and the mouth and the forehead shows that the human face is the same on both sides. There are then a series of horizontal guidelines. First, horizontal line is for the eyes. The next guideline is for the nose, and the third and final is for the mouth. And the eye guideline is roughly, it's almost halfway down the face. The nose guideline is halfway between the bottom of the mouth and the eyes. And then the mouth guideline is halfway between the bottom of the nose and the chin. Another interesting thing to notice that will be helpful for you as far as proportion is where the ears sit on the head. The top of the ears is right at the brow line. The bottom of the ears are right at the bottom of the nose. And the bottom of the mouth is right at the jawline. This is a lovely thing to help with proportion. So take a moment to just let that sink in, this whole image sink in. And then I want you to look at these vertical lines. If you were to drop a line straight from the inner corner of the eye, it will fall directly on the outer edge of the nose. And these outer guidelines dropping directly from the pupil, if you drop from that black dot in the middle of the eye, straight down to the outer corner of the lips, it's a straight line. It's a direct line from the inner part or the inner circle of the eye to the outer corner of the lips. It's just amazing how mathematically precise the human face is. I'm going to stop this share and show you another diagram. And for those of you who are new to this class, these diagrams are available on the internet. All you have to do is Google proportions of the human face, and there are millions of diagrams. This happens to be one of my favorites. I'm going to show you another one. This one takes you through the whole thing again, step by step, with an additional piece of information that's very helpful. Again, the human face is an oval. It is symmetrical, hence we have this vertical guideline. Our first horizontal guideline is for the position of the eyes in the oval. The second horizontal guideline is where you will find the nose. And the third horizontal guideline is for the position of the mouth. When we get down to this fifth oval in this diagram, Let me enlarge this just a little bit. We get into a really cool trick. This is how we can measure the width of the head by eye lengths. We can measure the width of the head, and we can measure the length and distance between features of the face and of the features of the face. So the first image here, this number 5 or 6 oval, this is, sorry, number 6 oval, we can measure the width of the human head or face, the width of the human face by eye lengths. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eye lengths across the human face. And the other interesting thing to note is the distance between the eyes. This is a place where beginning artists often don't see correctly. It is only 1 eye length across the bridge of the human nose. The distance between the eyes is only 1 eye length. Another interesting thing to note, from the bottom of the bridge in the nose to the bottom of the nose, the tip of the nose, is only 1 eye length. That's really helpful to remember. And these following guidelines, again, are showing you exactly where the sides of the mouth fall in relation to the eyes. You see that? It's so wonderful. It doesn't really show you the magic of where the outside of the nose is, but from the inner corner of the eye to the outer edge of the nostril, there's a direct line or a direct correlation. So those are really helpful things to think about. Here's one I haven't talked about yet, and it's in the last diagram. From the outer corner of the eye to the jawline is a straight line. Right at the position where the jaw starts to bend, that's where the outer corner of the eye sits on the face. Again, I invite you to look for these diagrams on the internet. Just type in proportions of the face in the search bar. I would put of the human face, and you'll find a gazillion of these diagrams. All right, I want to try and show you this assemblage in a way you can see it better. That's a little better, right? So again, this is just a box. I painted it red, and I have, that's good. I've glued, attached, wired, and stitched a variety of things: shells, buttons, twine, plastic. I've stitched a whole doll with twine over here. I've got some old photos and postcards, magazine pictures on it. This is still a work in progress. I might work on it today. This is a kind of crazy assemblage that I worked on in another class. I cut out a doll shape that I stitched and wove beads and yarn on. Let's see it better that way. And here is a larger, you can go very big with this project. So this is a larger assemblage sculpture that I started creating by gluing. I hot glued these boxes together. Notice I'm working on it from all sides because that's what makes it sculpture. And I painted and hot glued the boxes together. I actually think today I'm going to go the portrait route. And I'm gonna go more traditional and start doing a drawing on my easel. I'm gonna hit the light, see if that helps with the lighting in here today. And as always, you can opt to watch me, although I do prefer that you use your time wisely and focus on your own work. Please. If you think watching me is going to help you, then of course, by all means, watch. So I'm gathering up my drawing equipment. Yeah, assemblage I created with last week's focus. I thought about building on this some more, but I kind of feel like this baby is finished. I really had fun with this one. Those of you who might have completed yours from last week, when we have our sharing at the end of class, if you want to share what you made last week, that's always an option. And for those of you who are new students, we're going to work for the remainder of this class on our own work, but we will stop maybe just 10 minutes before the end of class today. And then I'm going to talk about the artist for next week. And we'll have time for sharing of your work as well. Hold this one up. This is a route you can go on for today too. You can work from a flat two-dimensional surface and join three-dimensional objects onto that flat surface. So I painted this first, and I took those string vegetable, horrible plastic string vegetable and fruit bags that you get in the supermarket, and I threaded them to the painted paper with floral wire, and then I stuffed it with cotton batting. I love it. Kind of fits with today's artist as well. Today, I'm moved to go in a more traditional way, though. I like to go back to my drawing on occasion just to keep my skills alive and well. To me, drawing is the highest art form there is. And I don't want to lose those skills. I'm going to work lightly in pencil first. You probably will not be able to see my drawing initially. I'm trying to decide if I want to do small portraits of all four of my grandparents or focus on one. I really only knew one of them as a living person. Maybe I'll focus on her. Starting with my oval. When I start my sketch, I like to hold the pencil loosely at the eraser end. It helps me to relax and start to observe what I'm looking at. I'm less interested in trying to recreate realistically. Now I'm just trying to capture the image, not realistically, but proportionately now. Just kind of capture the essence of this person. I can always go back and make corrections. I'm not using guidelines. I don't know why. Just don't feel like it today. Those of you who are feeling rusty or who are newer at portraiture, feel free to use the guidelines. They are very helpful. Not worrying about things like erasing at this point. Again, I'm not stressing about recreating realistically just yet. I'm just trying to work out where things sit on the face. What are the proportions of this person's face? I can always go back and erase later. Erase and change later. And I work very lightly. I am now erasing. Erasers were invented for a reason. They're good to use. Now that I've situated the features on the face, I'm going back to work on the outer edges of the face, the shape of the face. Do remember that the human face is three-dimensional. So you want to think about using more shading and less line when you try to recreate the face. And the tips on shading, I like to use the side of my pencil to create shadow. I start with light shadow because it's easier to add more dark shadow as I go. It's easier to darken the shadow as I go. And then I like to blend, make the shadow go gradually from dark to light in order to make it look completely rounded. I started light and now I'm starting to add a bit of darker shading on the outer side of the eye. And I'm taking my fingertip and I'm blending the shadow around the curve of the eye socket because it's a rounded form. I'm making my shadow curve to fit the form. Now I'm creating the shadow on the inner corner of the eye where it's sitting closest to the nose. Nose always casts a shadow over the inside of the eye socket. And this will help to form the nose as well as define the eye. These are the little tricks that you learn as you go. Again, I'm using as little line as possible. I'm trying to model this face through shading. Started light, going dark. Blending to make the shadow look gradual and rounded. I know it's difficult for you to see. There's not much I can do about it at this point. I'm going to work. That was the right eye of this person, but the left eye on my portrait. I'm now going to complete her left eye on the right side of the portrait. And then I'm going to darken the pupils. I'm working on the eyebrow now. Very lightly. Her eyebrows, like mine, are very pale and almost non-existent, very thin. This is the grandparent I think I look most like. And the only one I ever got to know. Eyebrows are very important in portraiture. They're unique and different for every individual. Look at the way they grow. Look at their thickness, their color, their shape. It will help you make your portrait actually look like the person you're looking at. I'm adding a bit of light shadow over the bridge of the nose. This will help to show that it's three-dimensional and rounded, but not a lot, because usually this is where the light is making the nose pretty bright. So just a little bit of arced or arched shading over the bridge of the nose to help define it. Very, very light shadow cast by the bridge of the nose on this side of the face. Most of the side of this face is in bright light. I'm not going to put too much. Again. I've never done a portrait of my grandmother before. This is interesting. Things to remember about the eye. Even if the person has pale blue eyes, the colored portion of the eye is colored. It is not white. And if the person is looking straight ahead, which is frequently the case in portraits, you don't see a whole lot of the whites of the eye. This colored part of the eye usually fills most of what you see in the eye. And don't forget, there's always that little speck of white light shining through. Indicate the person you're drawing is still living, even though it's a photograph. You're going to see that little bit of white light. Dark. Purple. Usually the outer ring around the eyes darker. Don't fret over things like eyelashes. You can darken the line of the lid a little bit just to indicate that lashes are there. Maybe put a few short lines to indicate lashes are there as well. But don't try and draw each individual lash. That tends to make your portrait look unreal and at times more like a cartoon, less like an actual person. All right, so you can see that the face is starting to emerge. Oh my gosh, it's already 11:30. Where did the time go? So I completed her right eye. Now I'm going to work on the left on my right side of the portrait. Filling in color. I don't really remember, but I think her eyes were hazel that time. Relatively young in this picture, but it's so interesting that her eyelids are starting to droop already. Age is starting to take its toll. Starting to work on the nose. This side of the nose is in pretty deep shadow, but again, I'm starting light, blending. Always get darker as the need arises. One thing to be very careful of are the nostrils. It may read in the picture that you're looking at, the nostrils may read as very black. You want to avoid making them deep, heavy, and black. It's going to flatten the image of the nose out. And remember, we're trying to make it look 3D. So you can just put a bit of darker shadow where you see the nostrils, but I wouldn't make an effort to make them heavy, thick, and black. They will appear unnatural. And again, it'll create kind of more of a cartoon image. You won't get the realistic effect that you're looking for. Starting to work on shading around her cheeks. She had pretty magnificent cheekbones. I'm working on that because it's helping me to define her nose. Starting light. And her face is starting to emerge. Onto the lips. The lips you can define pretty much with shading alone. Hardly any need to use lines at all. So the lips tend to be darker in the outer edges, lighter in the middle, just because of the way the light hits a three-dimensional object like the lips. You can literally think of the face as a sculpture. And some shading on her neck. That helps me to define the shape of her chin. And her jaw. And she is emerging. And now switch to graphite pencil to work on her hair. Lovely curly hair. Something I did not inherit. And I like to always save the hair till the last because it's so fun to draw. A lot looser, freer. Wanted to put that big black bow of her hat in the picture, but no room. Bad grandma. Going back in with the graphite to define some things now. Graphite tends to be darker and softer. Now that I've defined the shapes and features on the face, I can go back in to add details and darker shadow. Helps to bring out the character in the face now. Okay, we'll work for another 5 minutes. I'm gonna stop now. Everybody seems so focused. Awesome. I'm curious to see which direction everybody went in. I gave you a lot of options. While you're working, I'm going to put the name of our artist for next week in the chat box. Couple more minutes. I'm also going to put in the chat box information about Ibu Ndoi and my show. My husband and I are opening in a show at the Hoboken Historical Museum this Sunday. The name of the show is Adjacent. right. Hate to stop you all, particularly since we got a bit of a late start, but I want to give you the opportunity to share. Okay, Jane, you are first in my queue today. Actually, Jane, I want to offer sharing first to our newcomer, if she's willing. If you don't mind, Jane, is that okay?
No problem. Thank you.
Colleen, you willing to share?
Sure.
Awesome.
But I had a portrait of me and my two boys drawn by a friend, and he did an excellent job with the bodies, but the faces were kind of horrendous.
Ah,
So
you're
basically,
improving.
I mean, he's a phenomenal, no training whatsoever. I can show you. Let's see. I don't know if you can see.
Yes.
The
All
bodies
right.
are phenomenal. So I cut out different faces that I wanted to have, like different, and they kind of, and around it, just like garbage and things I had. This is actually, I like the white of it's like a box, I think. I think they keep things cold. I always rip them out of the garbage downstairs, things that keep things cold, because I
Right.
use them, and I always keep junk. I have tons of bottle caps, like the sun. And like it was this actual, this picture was taken on my birthday, which is why I have the balloons up here and guitar. And this is my son's nonprofit. So all around kind of like little memories. I keep little plastic junk and I use collages that remind me of things about
Awesome.
them, like Halloween, and just things about my kids and me, that just little things that you look at it and you remember, but you don't want to throw away. So that's basically,
Awesome.
and they're Star Wars freaks, which is why this guy is here. Yeah.
So were my kids Star Wars freaks.
Yes.
I relate. Well, hold it up one more time.
Sure.
I really like the composition of this piece. I really love that you're reusing things. I recommend, if you don't have a hot glue gun, Elmer's.
I do. This is the main
Didn't
part.
get to gluing that
No,
stuff.
I
in.
just I kind of take, because I move things around. I can never
Yeah,
decide
before you glue down, it's always best to move
to
things
rearrange.
around.
Yeah, because then
And
you
make
just
sure
throw it
they
up.
look good where you've got them.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I
Thank you.
like the interplay of 3-dimensional with 2-dimensional. You're on a good path with this one.
Thank you.
Awesome. Woohoo.
Thank you
Welcome
for
to our
inspiring me to finally
class.
do it.
Welcome to our class. I hope you
Thank
come
you.
next week.
Hopefully, yes.
Oh, and I'm sorry, everyone, and thank you for sharing, Colleen. I forgot to briefly talk about our artist for next week. Her name is Leila Ali, and she is a figurative artist who works in watercolor paint. Her paintings are extraordinary. Some of them take her months to create. All right, Jane, you're up.
Well, I was trying to find the image that, I was trying to find the image that I had used yesterday to begin this rendering. I've just continued to work on this piece of
Beautiful.
sunflowers and the Ukrainian. Well, actually, I did some more research about the image, and this image of this woman, I have it on my screen, but I can't show it to you guys unless I find it on my phone. But she's actually the image with a woman in Ontario, Canada, who was wearing the state, the flower of Ukraine, the sunflower. And then there was a different video that has traveled the world, referring to a woman who stood facing a Russian soldier and said, "What are you doing here? You're invading, you're harming us." And she was urging him to take the sunflower seeds, put them in his pocket, so that when he dies, the sunflowers will grow. And so it just enlarged this image even more for me, because this was a woman, not a woman in Toronto, even though this is an important image, but this woman standing her ground in her homeland and confronting a soldier right in front of her was really impressive. So I'm really committed to making this, finishing this image.
It's gorgeous. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Jane. And
So I'll show it once it's done. Hopefully I'll get it done this week.
the composition is beautiful. I love that the figure is off to the corner like that and reaching out into the distance. And I know that the message you're conveying is that all war is bad, and that unfortunately this war is between the Russians and Ukrainians, but death is terrible to whomever it happens to, and we honor all fallen soldiers, no matter what their nationality. So thank you, Jane. Thank you so much. My heart goes out to Russian and Ukrainian folks who have fallen. They are caught in a war that they did not want.
Right.
So
And this
thank
is a very personal matter for me because I'm the firstborn. I'm the first generation here in the US. My entire family were refugees from Germany and Austria.
It's horrifying, and my heart goes out to you. Horrifying what's going on. All right, thank you, Jane. Beautiful image. Esty, you're next. What'd you come up with today? Look at those
I
some beads.
no beads today, and never. But
Wow.
I cut two. I don't know if it's two Michael's drawings, and I'm collaging still.
Okay.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And is it thread that you're using, or is it actually sticks?
No, this is like a thread. Yeah.
Okay. And for me, it has a message. Are you trying to convey? No.
We'll see at the end. I'm not sure yet. What do you think is happening?
Well, I'm not sure.
Mm.
I thought they were dancing
about-
first. They're dancing in the night.
Oh,
No?
not dancing. I don't.
Or jump roping. It's like they're connected, like the ropes are going
Yeah,
around you.
connected. Some kind of connection, or maybe too tight of a connection.
I love the colors, Esty, are beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And the way you've used the threads, it really works.
I'll continue.
Doing great. All right, Suzanne. Your box.
On my box. So the unmute myself. Okay.
You are unmuted.
I'm unmuted. Okay, so it's really hard to show this, but
It
this
is,
the
but
top-
you can see it.
this is
Wow.
the top of the box. Then this is one side of the box. This is the other side. And then this is this side, and I am in the process of working on the collage for that side, which is going to be a combination of using this image here with, cutouts, collage, and using some of these cardboard things. So that's where I'm at.
The color is really bringing this piece together. And the color, it's just working beautifully. And the way you've incorporated it into every side of the box, no matter what you're using. And then the textural effects are awesome.
And they're all like, they're egg cartons, or this is a plastic thing that I think a phone came in. So they're all, this is from a glue, you know, a glue stick. So
So it fits with last week and this week's project, both.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Suzanne. Heather.
Great.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay. I also took a Michael.
Michael drawing.
Yeah.
For
And
those
just,
who don't know, Michael was our model who's no longer available, unfortunately. Okay, cool.
and I'm just still working on it,
You're
you know,
playing.
doing collage. Yeah.
You're playing. Yeah, I love this. I want the little white squares need to be joined together somehow more. They need to be incorporated in the piece more for me.
Okay.
The larger shapes are working beautifully. So maybe join these white, smaller white, the dots and the squares
Okay.
somehow have to be pulled into the larger composition, maybe threads between them or thin pieces of paper. And as always, I love the corrugated cardboard. Heather.
I just wanted to say, good to see you, Colleen. I haven't seen you in years.
Oh, you're friends? Oh,
I
awesome.
know her.
My kid, she opened had Echo of Art, the only place
Right.
you could take kids when I had kids. She rescued me. She was my salvation. Echo of Art was my salvation. And I know you, I didn't recognize the Heather. Is that Heather? But then I recognize your voice. I said, that's Heather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what a terrific connection. That's great.
Yeah.
And kudos to you, Heather, for having Echo of Art.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It was a great place. And Robin, thanks for sharing, Heather. Oh, it's already past 12. I'm sorry, guys. We're going to have to
That's okay.
speed it up. Go ahead, Robin. I don't want to stop.
No, this, I was doing a collage.
Wow.
And it started with
Look at
eyes,
this.
and then there ended up being windows, but I had to put some paint on it, and I'm not happy. I wasn't happy with it without the paint, and I'm not happy with the paint so far, so,
I would keep going with the paint, Robin.
yeah. I
Add
think
more
so.
paint. I love that turquoise color.
Yeah, me too.
Keep going with the paint. You've got it going on here. Keep playing with it.
Okay,
Just not finished yet. Do highlight the eyes. The eyes are speaking to me.
I should highlight them.
Yeah, don't cover them up.
Good, good. Thank you.
You're welcome. You got it going on. It's very
Okay.
cool. Susan.
Okay, I did a drawing of my great grandfather
Wow.
from this little,
Oh, what a handsome guy.
that's Abraham from Latvia. I never met him. He
Well,
came
yeah.
to America and then he got hit by a trolley, so that was the end of him.
Oh, God.
But my grandmother really, really looked like him. I could see her in him. So I
It's
really had,
beautifully, beautifully drawn.
oh, thank you.
Suggestion. I would soften the dark nostrils a bit. They're
Okay,
a little too black.
okay, great.
More shadow around his right eye
Okay,
on the left side of the drawing. It's darker. I would make it
Mhm.
much darker.
okay,
More hair on the top of the head.
okay,
And
what
you
you
got it
always-
done then.
okay, thank
Beautiful.
you.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Mhm.
You got good looking ancestors.
Yeah, some good looking people there.
Franz May, thank you,
Thank
Susan,
you.
for sharing.
Thank you.
Hello.
Oh, yay. Oh, Franz May, see, I love you always get inspired directly by a specific piece by the artist, and you get so creative by doing that.
Well, so I was trying to find stuff that I have a lot, and my daughter has a lot of these Trader Joe's stickers and a lot of other stickers. So I grabbed the stickers and then I just got really playful, like with
Excuse me.
like
Yeah.
childish colors, people skating. And I tried to do some 3D with the leftovers of the papers from the stickers.
I love it.
Yeah, I think I was needing a little color to write the day and all of
Well-
everything that is happening.
It needs a larger frame. So maybe mounting it on something bigger, but at an angle, just like her piece was at an angle.
Yes,
Fabulous.
thank you.
Really well done. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Franz May. Have I missed anybody? I think, Franz May, you were the last. Okay, quick reminder, and then I will see you all next week. Wait a sec. So my husband and I, Ibu and Doi and I, are opening in our show at the Hoboken Historical Museum this coming Sunday from 2 to 3, March 6th, in our show Adjacent. So there will be food and wine. This is like a pre-pandemic opening. It should be a lot of fun. Do come. Maybe it'll be warm enough. We could even hang out outside after you look at the art in the courtyard of the museum. Loved having you all here. Thank you, Jane, especially for all your extra research. You are the bomb. And thank you to the Hoboken Library for allowing us to do this. Take care, everyone, and I will see you next week for Leila Ali.
Okay,
Take
thank you.
care, everyone. Be safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a good week.